And welcome again to the Dave LewAllen podcast. Happy that you're with us today. Happy New Year, by the way, as well. 2024 is here, and there is big news in 2024. My guest today, we'll talk about that. Let me introduce you to Charles Pol, who is a central figure and starring character in the Incredible Dr. Pol show, Nat Geo Wild, and his brother-in-law, as I find out, Ben Reinhold, who is the owner of Courtyard Stone and Landscape, and they have come together to create a new show for Nat Geo Television, Nat Geo Wild on television, the Incredible Pol Farm. So Ben and Charles are here to talk about it today. Welcome. Thank you for the time. And as a fan of the Incredible Dr. Pol show, I'm excited to see, Charles, what's coming next.
Thank you for having us, Dave. I really appreciate it. We're really excited to be talking about our new project, the Incredible Pol Farms. It is a new show that we're doing on Nat Geo Wild, and it kind of sprung out of COVID. We obviously, during the beginning of COVID, everything got shut down, and the veterinary business, being an essential business, kept going. But me not being an essential employee was like I was at home in my basement a lot. And
like a lot of us.
Like a lot of us,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And so it kind of sprung out of that, this idea. It actually was partly because I had the free time, but it was also partly about seeing like the lack of items in the grocery store and really feeling like, hey, I want some control about my food source, and should something happen to the supply, I want to be able to have food and food for my family. And so I called my brother-in-law, and we were just chit-chatting on the phone, and I said, hey, I have this idea for a new show I want to do. I want to start a farm. My wife was completely supportive of the idea. She was really into it. I think that we looked at our kids too, and we decided that we wanted to raise our kids on a farm. I was raised on a farm. My dad we always had animals. It was a hobby farm, small farm, not commercial, but we had just about everything: cows, sheep, horses, geese, peacocks, chickens, just about every animal you imagine. And the responsibility that you develop in kids, being able to take care of those animals, being responsible for having to take care of those animals is tremendous. And, being able to provide that for my kids. So I was talking to Ben, and I just said, hey, can you come maybe build me an aviary? And then a little one, a little one for my peacocks, because I had these peacocks that Beth had hatched these peacocks for the show, but we wanted to hatch them, and she was very fond of the peacocks because she hand reared them in our living room, and so we wanted a place. We had them in a separate pen. I previously had some peacocks, but we kept these new ones separate, and we didn't have any place for them to go outside. So I asked him to build me a spot for that. And then on top of that, then we said, well, I really like this water tower that you have at your property. Like, what do you think about doing a water tower? And then it got into well, we can't just do a water tower. Why don't we do something? So we looked at Greenfield Village here in Detroit, and they have this giant water tower where they fill up the steam engine. And I said, well, Ben, can you build me that? And yeah, you could tell the plans of that.
I think Charles, I always like to do things definitely nice. Obviously, I own a landscape business, and we tend to really, I like to design what the homeowner wants, but I also want it to look great too. And I think with my ideas and then, well, Charles' ideas and then my expertise to kind of put these things together, everything just kind of grew and it got bigger. And I think you're going to see that as the show goes on. I think you're going to see these projects get bigger and bigger and bigger.
All right, let's pause right there for just a moment with Charles Pol and Ben Reinhold about the Incredible Pol Farm. January 6th, Nat Geo Wild, 10 p.m. is the show debut, and let's take a look. Here's a little teaser for what's to come.
My dad taught me about farming. I want my kids to have that same experience. It's going to be a little more challenging.
A little bit more work.
Is that what our lambs are going to look like, Charles?
Let's go.
This is your first time driving a tractor?
You farm and you learn.
Hopefully we didn't break anything.
I think I'm going to do my dad really proud.
What?
The Incredible Pol Farm. New series Saturday, January 6th at 10 on Nat Geo Wild.
Is there poop on my face?
Yeah.
It's got all the makings for a lot of fun, no question about that. In addition to all the work to build a farm.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. So we started with a blank canvas. We didn't go into it with having like a fully fledged farm. I had I had a couple of pole barns and that's about it.
Yeah.
So we started saying like, well, I want some sheep because that's what I had as a kid. And I would like some
sheep?
some sheep.
Maybe
one or two,
maybe
10.
1 to 10. Who knows what we end up with by the end of this.
Yeah, exactly. Some cows and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and but we had to build the facilities. We had to put up, fix the pastures. That everything had that I grew up on had kind of like, my dad kept some horses, but most of the animals were gone.
Yeah.
And so we had to just kind of do everything from scratch. The field was a cornfield. My dad, we rented it out to a local farmer, and we needed hay, so we had to plant a hay field. So we had to really figure out how to do stuff. I mean, that was the amazing thing is like we proved, I think, even to yourself, Ben, like some of the projects that I gave you, I think you were questioning like your ability to maybe execute some of them.
And maybe his sanity too.
Yeah, both. I think a little, there's without question. I mean, Charles, everything with him is definitely supersized. There's no doubt. It's all supersized. And yeah, he definitely put my ability to the test on a few of these projects without question. Without question.
Well, and there's just like in the Incredible Dr. Pol show, there are things that turn out well and things that are more challenging or things that, don't work out certainly as you might have intended. I'm sure we'll see some of that throughout the show as well.
More than a little bit. We learned as much as we learned how to farm. We learned how not to farm. But at the same time, that was the great experience of it. Is like we proved to ourselves. I mean, even from the first task of planting this hayfield, we proved to ourselves how difficult it was going to be. All the things that you take for granted, because farming is not. And that's another thing about this show. And one of the inspirations for me to wanting to do this is I watched all these farmers going out of business. Yeah. Across the state, across the country, and the average age of the American farmer is like 56 or 57. They're not getting younger, and who's going to do this business? What's going to happen to the knowledge? Because we learned ourselves, like as much as we knew about like growing up with animals and raising them, and there was so much that we didn't know. And you can't look in a book.
There was so much we couldn't control either, too, right? Like the weather. I mean, the weather destroyed us on a few of these things, and unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Right, so you just got to figure out how to roll with it and roll with the punches, and it was.
But we proved to ourselves that we could do it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we proved to ourselves that we could do it. And I think we had a lot of fun. I like to tell some of the people when I talk to some friends of mine from back in California, and they're like, "You have a farm? Like, what are you doing?" And I say, I never sleep as well is when I'm working on the farm and I'm tired at the end of the night. I mean, you just get like a great night's sleep. You wake up reinvigorated for the next day. That's one thing I can say about that whole time that we were working and building and had all these projects going up, is that I'd wake up invigorated in the morning and ready to go.
Oh, you slept well. I think I ran you ragged. I think a few days. There's no doubt about that. I think he was definitely Charles. Yeah, he slept very well.
Yeah. So the lead-in for this new show on January 6th, the debut, is the debut of season 24 of the Incredible Dr. Pol show, which has been, by any measure, a huge hit. Your dad, I mean, and it was your idea originally, that, hey, my dad, he's a character, this could be something, and my goodness, you all have turned it into something, and something that has touched a lot of people over the years.
Yeah, it's a great show because it's very real.
Yeah.
I think people can relate to it. There's built-in drama. And, one of the things that we talked about when I talked to Nat Geo Wild about doing this new show is, it's very procedural when you think about it, in the same way that, like, a lot of Law and Order is procedural. You have these characters, and every week there's a new case, and it's, like, very self-contained. And that's kind of the way the show is, just by the nature of there's like these cases, these people come in, they bring the clients, my dad fixes them, that's life and death, drama built in.
Right.
But people really fell in love with my dad, my mom, the people at the office. And this new show expands upon it, allows the characters to really develop, because it's not a procedural. It's us building our farm. It's our lives. It's us living our lives. And so it's going to give a completely different feel, and yet still be the same. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud about this new show, is we've captured everything, the zeitgeist of the Incredible Dr. Pol, which is, partly the community, and the just feel of the world, the good nature spirit of it, the kind of sometimes the fun and the sadness and all these different elements kind of came into our show too. And so I think you're going to see something completely new when you turn on at 10 p.m. and feel something completely different, and yet it's going to feel very
comfortable too.
Similar.
Yeah.
Like you're going somewhere comfortable that
Did when you had the original show and the idea, and then it begins to come together, did you have could you have imagined the success or the level of interest and popularity that show has achieved, for all of you?
I don't know that I would say that I knew that it was going to be a runway hit and that we would be doing it 13 years later. But I knew that, like, just watching the sizzle, I knew that my dad had a lot of energy. He had a screen presence that people were kind of dynamically drawn to. And I knew that we would be able to, the amount of cases, the amount of work that they do at the clinic, the variety every day is very different. So I knew that we were going to be able to provide something interesting. And like I said, the drama's baked in. And a lot of reality shows, they have to make up the drama. They are like, let's fight, throw the glass in our face. It's all fake. And I know a lot of people who work in that, and they just script it and they tell people what to do because the drama isn't baked in. But in ours, it's literally life and death. So a dog comes in, it's sick, it's going to die. We have to save it or not.
Yeah,
but
and on the farm calls, you're pulling calves, and they're either living or dying. And
exactly.
And you see the emotion of the pet owners or the farm owners, and those that's part of their livelihood. The life and death of these animals too.
It's a monetary value, but you'd be surprised how many farmers like really are attached to their animal.
Yeah.
Like you get these rough tumble guys and they'll get a little tear in their eye because, you know, their cow is gonna die. And so they do, and you do. Like we had some cows, and Ben knows about that. He got a cow too, unexpectedly, just decided to buy a cow.
You buy sheep yet too?
I had no sheep. No sheep for me. I am done. Like the cow is enough. I think there's also another.
I'll get him around. I'll get him around.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So tell me what this 350 acre farm ultimately, if you can share it, you know, becomes.
I think
Easy there.
Yeah,
I don't
more
think
work
there's
for him.
I don't know if there's like
No.
an ultimate plan, because I think the plan changes daily, without question.
Well, that's probably, you know, a part of the magic of it.
It is the magic. I like my dad. I like doing different things. I like having different animals. And so the idea of just having one animal on the farm, like, and specializing in cows or sheep or whatever, is like, it just is kind of boring to me. I like the variety. So, you know, I imagine that we'll expand our menagerie of animals. There's quite a few species that I can think of.
I mean, you got to have chickens, right?
Yeah, well, we have chickens.
By season 3, we'll have giraffes. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah,
I
exactly.
guarantee it's gonna happen.
Yeah, but I mean, like even like so we have maple trees on our property, and I have this idea that I'd really like to try doing maple syrup, and you know, try my hand on that. So it's there's a lot of percolation yet on like how we can grow this and what we can do for the future.
I'm not worried at all, Dave. Honestly, I'm not worried. This, like, every night he goes to bed, and the next day is another idea.
And yet we pull it off. I mean, we pulled it off. And I told him one of the things we created I said I want to do a shelter for my sheep, and we have to do something out in the field for them. And I said I want to do an underground hut. And he says, what? And I said, I want like a kind of what they have in New Zealand, where it's built into a mountainside, and they have this hut like a hobbit hole.
I mean, this is near Mount Pleasant, but the last time I checked, and I went to school at Central Michigan University, aren't really any mountains up there to build into the side of.
No, we had to make it.
Who made it?
We had to make it.
We made it all right, and I think you're going to see some challenges this season with what we tried to do. You know, it was
A few miscalculations, but yeah, I mean, like there's always issues, and it's always the things you don't plan for. Actually, the sheep hut turned out like amazing. Like honestly, it's awesome. There was just some things that went along with it that we didn't have planned.
we weren't ready for it.
And we'll discover all of that by watching the show.
That's right. And you can watch on Nat Geo Wild, but you can also watch on Disney Plus and Hulu. So we're super excited to be able to provide different ways that people can watch, and it will air the next day. So December 7th, if you can't tune in to Nat Geo Wild, you'll be able to turn over to Hulu or Disney Plus and stream it
On January 7th.
on January 7th.
That first episode. So what, you know, you're in the, I guess, the anticipation phase for the show. How do you feel it's going to be received, given your experience with, you know, the Incredible Dr. Pol show and everything that has come before this? Your hopes and expectations, I guess.
I'll tell you, my dad, he tells this great story, and he, when we had the Incredible Dr. Pol, 2011, he shot the first 4 episodes, and, you know, he's like, what was this? And then they flew him out to California, and he went to the Television Critic Association, and he was on stage, and they called it the Men of Nat Geo Wild that year was the theme. And it was this guy who was like a crocodile hunter, and this other guy who went around and did all these poisonous animals. And then the third guy like captured cougars. And they were all like in their 20s, like built like movie stars. And then here's my dad, the old guy who's bald, on stage with him. And he tells the story. He's like, what am I doing here? Like, how am I a part of these guys? And yet, of all those shows, he was the one that like just blew up and people could relate to. And so it's what we call lightning in a bottle, right? Like you just capture something, a zeitgeist in the moment. I have really good feelings, but to tell you the truth, like, I just hope people enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. Yeah. And that's all you can do when you create a show is hope people enjoy it as much as you did making it.
Well, and for all the hard work of building a farm and running a farm, yeah, there's a fun factor involved here as well. You want to have fun in the process of whatever it is you're doing, because then you're not really working, right?
That's right. And we had more fun than we were allowed to. Actually.
Yeah, no, we had a blast. The whole, it was a lot for me owning the business here in Oakland County, and then having to go up to Mount Pleasant and be away from the family and everything else. But I was also with family at the same time, and for us to be able to build this together, we did have a lot of fun. Sometimes until 3 o'clock in the morning in fields.
Yeah. We did a lot of work.
I don't think there was any farming necessarily going on at 3 a.m. in the fields.
Oh yeah, when you have deadlines and you're on a tractor and like tomorrow you at the plant, you have to go until it's done.
Production says we need this tomorrow.
All right, so your brother-in-law. So when you first saw the Incredible Dr. Pol show, and was your reaction like mine? You're brought in, you're the characters and the people and the drama. Did that capture you too in the same way so many others?
I think so. I think what's different for me though is that I grew up with Dr. Pol, right? So he was like another dad to me. Charles and I used to play together when we were toddlers. So for me, you can definitely tell why he's captivating. There's no question. Just his accent alone and his quick remarks and things like that. So, but for me, I don't think it was really anything different. It's like, oh, there's dad number 2 on TV, right?
Yeah.
I think, so I don't think that, for me, it just really wasn't, it was no different,
But you can see the appeal knowing him as you have growing up, why the show appeals to so many people, though.
I just wonder what's the appeal with Charles and I, other than that we're crazy. I think that's the appeal with us. But
crazy can be good.
Yeah, I guess.
I think people, it's funny because we did. A lot of people they have their brother-in-law or their in-laws, and they're just you meet your wife and you meet her and you get married, and they're usually not somebody you've known your whole life.
Yeah.
And my wife Beth and we've known each other really our whole lives. Kind of each went our separate ways, and then came back and found each other again in our early 40s actually. Early 40s.
We can say late 30s.
Late 30s.
Late 30s. We'll say
late 30s. But anyway, and we got married and we started this family, and so it was pretty crazy to all of a sudden be related to somebody that we used to fool around and have fun with, and then I
don't think even with the success of the show, Charles, I don't think that like our family, we knew you guys before the success of the show, right? So for us, it was just normal. Whether or not we saw you on TV or not, it didn't matter. Like, I know Doc, that's no big deal, right? So there wasn't I don't think there was a
fanboy.
It wasn't like that between us at all.
No, but it was crazy. But then to be able to work together in this and do this, it was a great experience. And like honestly, having done the Incredible Dr. Pol and working with my dad all those years, and it was a great experience. We talk about it a lot. That when I was a kid, I wasn't very interested in veterinary medicine. It was not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, that was his life and his passion. And then I went off to go do television in Hollywood, and that was my passion in my life. And then to be able to merge those two things, to bring the television to my dad's veterinary medicine, and then be working with him for 10 years, kind of shooting the show, but also working with him, working with the animals. and we kind of merged that. It was such a special thing. I think it's part of what shines on the show is that we're so happy. But then we've been able to do it again, like doing a family farm and bringing our family together and doing this together as with people that you love. It brings like a certain wonderful passion to it that is just unexplainable.
Share the story though, because you did go to California, but you came back, and originally, it was your show idea in a sense with a team, but the idea wasn't for you to take any kind of a central role on the Incredible Dr. Pol show, but as time evolved, that's what happened. You became, a significant part of that show. Tell me how that happened and why that happened.
Yeah, they when we first sold the show, they were very interested in my dad doing his work. I think they kind of saw it very from just a very documentary style of project. And Nat Geo was very, if you watched it, they would do their big documentaries, and that's kind of what they were known for. It was a very new network at the time, Nat Geo Wild. And so I was supposed to be behind the camera as a producer on the show. And so I went out and they said, well, maybe you could be on one episode that just you come home on a vacation and you ride with your dad. We think it would be kind of fun. So the first day we shoot the show, and I'm behind the camera. I'm producing. My dad's doing his thing, and there was not a lot of anything talk going on. I bet he did his work, talked to the farmer, did what he did, but there was it was kind of slow. And the second day they're like, well, let's go into this thing where you ride with your dad. So I started riding with my dad, and all of a sudden we're chit-chatting in the car. And, he's like, well, why don't you grab this calf? It was the first thing we did. We went and I had to wrangle this calf, and I struggled at wrangling this calf, and he's laughing at me and telling me how to do it. And, I'm holding this calf, and we're working together on the show. And that night I went to the production office, and the executive producer came up to me and they said, hey, what do you think about being on the show just from now on? And I said, I'll do what I think is best from the show. So now that we have so many years later, we have a new showrunner who was a producer for a long time, now is the showrunner. And we'll sit and talk about it, and we like to talk about the fact that I produce from in front of the camera. I guide stuff along, allow things to happen, but because I'm experienced in television and I know what makes a scene, I can craft a scene within the context of reality, and they don't have to insert their hands as producers on other reality shows will have to go over and say, hey, can we do this again? Yeah. So it allows me to produce from in front of the camera, and that's the way I like to look at it, that I've been doing.
You're kind of a secret agent.
A secret agent?
Right?
I am.
Inserted
I assume, Dr. Pol will make some crossover appearances on the Incredible Pol Farm as well?
To say the least. I mean, my dad was
instrumental.
Instrumental.
Helping us do this.
Usually, he's like the Yoda. We would always go to him, and
well, he's the brain and you're the brawn.
That's right.
That.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely is. He knows. He has a lot of experience. He grew up on a farm. He's done a lot of things. Is not only knowledgeable about animals and the medicine, but the actual techniques of a lot of farming.
I had to push you a little bit more to go to your dad, though.
Occasionally,
you weren't.
You don't want to go to your dad unless you have to go to your dad.
I understand, but we needed to a lot more than what we initially thought we were going to.
We probably could have avoided a couple of issues had we gone to him sooner.
And asked for his opinion or advice, right?
Yes.
Hey, Dad, what do you think? And, well, we still learn the hard way sometimes,
That's right.
Yeah. Pride gets in the way and whatnot. But what a tremendous resource to have close by, for sure. But the bottom line is you hope this is going to be hugely successful. But, it's family. And you're having fun too.
I think it's already successful for Charles and I, right? We built a farm. We did it. Regardless if it's on TV or not on TV, we did it. And we have a lot of fun projects that we were able to put together. We have some animals that we're taking care of. And it's been fun for us. So for us, it's been successful, I think, regardless of what happens with the show.
Yeah.
That's 100% accurate, and I think it's imperative for a successful show or just let's say this, an authentic show. Mm-hmm. Like if you want it to be authentic, you have to be there for the right reasons, and I think we really enjoyed what we were doing. I loved every second of it. I'm going to continue whether the show is filming or not. It's
part of your life now.
That's right. It's part of my life. And so the show is just tertiary to what we're doing. And I think that that's the key to making it authentic, is that it's very real to us.
Yeah. But as you say, we talked about the pandemic and who was essential and who wasn't. And you said, look, farming is essential and putting food on the table is essential. And so that's certainly part of this and will continue to be for you and your family as well.
My kids especially. I think it's essential that kids grow up with animals. I think it makes them better human beings. It's been a mission statement of my dad and mine on our show to educate people, to encourage people to get animals. And it can be anything. It can really go down to and Ben knows this too. His daughter got a rabbit during the filming of the show. It was really
Whose idea was that?
It was actually her idea. She's
encouraged by
encouraged sponsors. But at the same time, it was, you can see what it does for your daughter to have this rabbit that she's
the responsibility.
taken.
It's just amazing. You have to care for something, the responsibility. I do want to say one thing with the projects, though, in building this farm. We didn't maybe have to go as eccentric as what we did with some of these projects. Did we, Charles?
It's, you know what, though? If you're going to do it, I am not... I want to do it in my own way, right? I dance to the beat of my own drum. I always have done, and that's the way I want to do it. I'm not going to do it straight. I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. I'm going to look at things and think outside the box, and sometimes that's going to take us into problems, granted. But, if Thomas Edison never said, hey, there's got to be a better way than candles, we'd be sitting here in the dark. Right?
You're equating yourself to Thomas Edison?
Well, innovators. Innovators.
Well, this is great. I wish you all the best with the show. Thrilled to have you here today. Ben Reinhold and Charles Pol. We're thrilled to have you here to talk about this new venture. I'm excited to see it. I'm a big fan of the original show. So thrilled that the universe is expanding. The Pol universe is expanding. So thanks for the time. Again, January 6th, 10 p.m. on Nat Geo Wild, the Incredible Pol Farm, preceded by season 24, the debut of the Incredible Dr. Pol, which has just been fantastic for viewers. I mean, you hear from people all over the world, I'm sure, because of the success of the Incredible Dr. Pol.
Yes, it's because of the nature of Nat Geo Wild and Disney and the way that they distribute it. It's distributed in I think over 100 countries, all over the world. We get fans coming in. One of the strangest thing was a guy shows up at the clinic. And he doesn't speak a lick of English. He's bowing to everybody. And it turns out he's from China. And he's in the area on business. And he watches the show. And he just wanted to come meet my dad. But it's one of the great things that I say to people, because we have fans from the Middle East. We have fans from South America. We have fans from all across Europe, all over the world, Asia. And animals are one of the great uniters, because it doesn't matter the culture, the person, the religion, the politics, anything. people love
Brings
animals,
us
and it can bring us together.
Yeah.
And it's a great way for us to end this conversation. So thank you for that. Charles, thank you. Ben, thank you.
Dave, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Dave.
Wish you the best of luck with the new show. It's fantastic. Again, Saturday, January the 6th, coming up 10 o'clock, Nat Geo Wild for the Incredible Pol Farm. Thanks to Charles and to Ben and to you for watching this episode and listening to the Dave LewAllen podcast. We'll be back. Happy New Year. Thanks to our producer, director, Josh Bowren. Stay safe. Be kind. We'll see you next time.